History was made here in Selma 53 years ago, and today people gathered to honor that bloody Sunday.
They got beat down on this bridge, and so we celebrate it every year. It was the beginning of black people being real citizens.
Andrew Hill is no stranger to the bridge reenactment.
I'm a veteran here. I've been here at least 15 times over the years.
He described the experience with one word:
spiritual.
Today, he looks back on his past.
I remember those days when it was black at one spot and white in another. I lived through to see all of that.
People are here from all across the nation to experience what people experienced during the bridge crossing on this very bridge 53 years ago. So they marched across the bridge, many different races coming together as one.
I like the march. It kind of gives how I feel of what our ancestors went through to get this far.
It is very important that we keep this legacy going.
The marches, beatings, and arrests have not been forgotten by the people here today. In Selma, Inslee Nichols, WVUA 23 News.
When most people think about crime control, they think about police monitoring the streets on the ground. But that's not all they can do. With help of trained pilots, Tuscaloosa police can take their crime patrol to new heights.
Starting on Black Friday, the Tuscaloosa Police Department hovers over the city searching for crime. With 3 helicopters to choose from, Brian Canterbury says it gives the department a leg up on stopping crime.
It's extremely helpful. I mean, just having the bird's eye view of what's happening, whether it's in a parking lot at the mall or Midtown or just any other scene.
They can't arrest people from the sky. So how does this work? Canterbury explains.
A good example of what we would do is if we were, say, flying around Midtown and we happen to notice a suspicious person kind of off on his own, and he appeared to be looking in car windows or pulling on doors, then we would keep observation on him while we called in ground units over the radio and just keep that person in sight until they arrived on scene and made contact with him.
With increased crime around the holidays, Tuscaloosa police have been hovering the skies for over 15 years fighting crime. So if you thought you could get away with crime this Christmas, Canterbury has a message.
Don't spend Christmas in jail. If they see us flying around, and the odds of them getting away with whatever they're trying to do are pretty slim.
From 1,000 feet above Tuscaloosa, Sam Luther, WVUA 23 News.
In college, you usually think of graduates being around the same age, but that's not always the case. WVUA 23's Chelsea Barton joins us live. In Chelsea, graduates come in all ages.
Jabari, they do, and we have a story tonight of one special lady who is proof of just that. 87-year-old Pat Cassidy will be walking across the stage any minute over at Coleman Coliseum to receive her degree from the University of Alabama in interdisciplinary studies. Cassidy first enrolled at the capstone back in 1947, but ended up withdrawing to work in the military. Ever since then, she says she's regretted not finishing what she started all those years ago. After the passing of her husband last year, Cassidy took a leap of faith and called the University of Alabama to see how many credits she lacked from completing her dream of becoming a UA alumna. And on her birthday just last month, she says she received the best present ever. She had already earned enough credits to graduate. Cassidy has this message to anyone out there chasing a dream.
To just never really giving up hope that I could eventually close this out. Yeah.
And Cassidy encourages others to look into the Back to Bama program that allowed her to receive her degree, because she knows there are so many others out there just like her who've wandered off their path from completing their degree here at the capstone. We certainly wish Cassidy and all of the graduates the best of luck. Live tonight, I'm Chelsea Barton, WVUA 23 News.
A motel general manager was escorted from her job to the Tuscaloosa County Jail today. facing 2 charges of second-degree human trafficking. WVUA 23's Chelsea Barton was there as this woman was taken into custody. Chelsea, how did she react?
Well, Lynn, as you're about to see, 65-year-old Shirley Sparks, general manager of the La Quinta Inn here in Tuscaloosa, was very adamant today as she was being taken into custody that she's done nothing wrong. This is Shirley Sparks.
Ma'am, do you have anything to say?
This is wrong.
She's the general manager of the La Quinta Inn in Tuscaloosa, charged with 2 counts of human trafficking.
Step up. Why is it wrong?
This is not even true. This is not true. I have anything to do with anything like that.
But Tuscaloosa police say they have evidence that proves otherwise.
We uncovered evidence that she benefited financially and was complicit with this operation. It's what we feel.
Lieutenant Darren Beams is referring to a 3-year human trafficking ring run by this man, James Edward Warren from Jackson, Mississippi.
Apparently he had been staying at the La Quinta Inn off and on for over 3 years and had a well-established little criminal enterprise going on at this location. The indictments were just handed down today, and the United States Marshals in Mississippi are actively looking for Mr. Warren.
Lieutenant Beams says this arrest, along with the capture of James Warren, will be one step closer to ending human trafficking in Tuscaloosa.
Human trafficking is the fastest growing crime in America today, and it's finally getting the attention that it deserves. I can tell you that in the last 11 months, just 11 months, 5 human trafficking Class A felony cases have been made at this location. 5 in 11 months.
And Tuscaloosa Police Department has this message to the citizens they serve.
It's important for us to show that we're not going to tolerate human trafficking in our area, and we're not going to tolerate individuals that are in positions of power that manage these hotels. We're not going to put up with them engaged or benefit in any way in this type of activity. A lack of knowledge is not a defense anymore. We're not through yet. We're not through yet.
And Tuscaloosa Police Department does offer a free course for hotel personnel so that staff there can learn the warning signs when it comes to human trafficking. Anyone interested in that course can call Tuscaloosa Police Department. Live from our newsroom tonight, I'm Chelsea Barton, WVUA 23 News.
Starting off tonight's news with a special report out of Washington, D.C. The Tuscaloosa Rotary Club took Vietnam, Korea, and World War II veterans on a free trip to the nation's capital. This video shows them returning from the trip last night. Now, while in Washington, they got to tour the various war memorials as well as some of the famous sites on the National Mall, Arlington Cemetery, and the Iwo Jima Memorial. WVUA 23's Chelsea Barton and photographer Keith Dobbins were also able to go along on this trip. Each vet is allowed to bring one person with them, and as Chelsea tells us in her special report, it wasn't very hard for one pair of Tuscaloosa County vets to decide who they wanted to share this honor flight experience with.
Traveling to our nation's capital is an incredible learning experience for anyone. But when you get to experience all of this with a family member, it makes it that much more special. Brothers, they often have a lot in common.
We both kind of look like our dad.
And many differences.
I was in the United States Navy during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
Yes.
No, ma'am. I was in the Army Reserve.
Instead of each bringing a guest on the 2018 Rotary Honor Flight, the Stewart brothers, both veterans, decided who better to spend the day with than each other.
It's great. I love spending any time I can with my brother. He's part of the reason why I joined the Navy.
And what's the age difference between you two?
Well, I'm 6 or 7 years older than he is.
Almost.
I know I look younger, but you know.
Yeah.
Jimmy and Ricky spent much of the day remembering their father.
Our dad, I'm proud to say, was a World War II veteran. Our dad taught us the values, you know, to love our country and respect one another and the American people. You know, I think he'd be proud of the men we've grown to be.
Like the Stewart brothers, the majority of honor flight participants were Vietnam veterans, making the stop at the Vietnam War Veterans Memorial extremely emotional.
It wasn't those kids, you know, a lot of them were drafted, and they didn't want to go in the first place, you know, but they were willing to give up their lives for this country. So it really chokes me up to know that, you know, over 58,000 of our young men gave their life to keep us freedom, because freedom is not free.
And long before they enlisted to defend their country, the Stewart brothers had each other's back. And they say no matter what, that still stands true today.
And I'll tell you something else he did. He probably won't admit this, but wouldn't nobody in the neighborhood pick on me, because my big brother Ricky would be after him.
Them times is gone now. You don't let nobody get ill at you, because I ain't defending you.
That's all right. I carry you now.
Yeah.
Well, veterans had a wonderful opportunity this week to travel to Washington, D.C. for the annual Honor Flight. Now, an Honor Flight is where, for at least one day, Korean War era veterans, World War II vets, also Vietnam era veterans, see all they can see from our nation's capital. The veterans looked like the world's oldest school group in their matching yellow polo shirts and their blue caps. Many of them had never been to Washington before. And while they're in Washington, the men and women visited the memorials built to remember and honor those who served. And of course, these vets got the full motorcade experience anywhere they went. WVUA 23's Chelsea Barton and photojournalist Keith Dobbins flew to the nation's capital as well, and spending the day with the veterans. Now, each vet is allowed to bring one person with them on the honor flight, and in this special report, Chelsea introduces us to just a few of those chosen to attend.
The 9th annual Tuscaloosa Rotary Club Honor Flight put nearly 100 West Alabama war veterans in the nation's capital. With them, many brought their spouses, others their siblings or friends. But a few paid tribute to one of the most precious relationships out there.
It's super meaningful, you know, to be able to do this with your grandchild.
We spoke to several children who were able to come on the trip today with their grandparents, and one thing they all had in common is they say this will be a day they'll never forget.
It's pretty cool for me to tell everybody that my granddad served for our country.
I am so happy to be here with my grandfather.
Vietnam Army veteran Bill Byrd chose to bring his 13-year-old granddaughter, Mary Rose.
Nobody around but just us. So we could just hang out today and have a good time and let her learn about their history and see the things that a lot of people in our country never get to see. And I just wanted to experience it with her. And I'm very honored that she came with me.
Charlie Thompson brought his 2 grandsons, Evan and Andrew.
It is extremely special. Both of them have been pretty interested in Pop going to Vietnam for years. They have Pop's memorabilia on their wall at home. So to get a chance to do this with them is as special as you can get. It really is.
The children soaked up parts of our nation's history.
Soldiers from everywhere came to fight. And a lot of them are volunteers, a lot of them are draftees.
And learned heartbreaking sacrifices made for their freedom.
And he had a wife and a little baby back home that he never got to see.
These guys may be little in size, but were impacted by this honor flight opportunity in a big way.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Angel.
Every chance I get to listen to one of his war stories, I do. And it's just really, really awesome. I just love him so much, and I think he's so amazing. And he's done some amazing things.
But unforgettable time that we've had together.
It is a day I will always remember. I'm really glad you made it back, Pop.